Badoop, badoop, badoop. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It's July 16th.
It is. That's the date. I knew that. Definitely.
I looked on my computer to know, and it was a Saturday. Though, barely knew it was a Saturday. Like, yesterday I was like, what day is this? For some reason, it didn't feel like any day of the week.
I only knew it was Saturday because I worked. That was it.
Well, I mean, you know. I mean, like, you know, it took me a minute, and, like, you know, then, like, you know, people were like, oh, hey, this is going on this next day. Like, I know my dad's car is on the fritz, so he's going to use mine for his band job today. No, in fact, my father is a musician also. I said museum. Other things that he does. Look, I've got the hippie dad. He is quintessential hippie, cool dude. Everybody always said I've got the cool dad, so I will always accept this. The stories. Anyway, we want to talk tabletop. You know, personal stories are for other shows, maybe? I don't know.
True. Maybe. Who knows?
You know. Let's just dive into the madness, because this is a weird one, because it's both, like, I don't understand it, but also it's like, it's just fine, is the weird thing about it. It's a new Secret Lair Fortnite, and the point is, they're just reskinned cards. They actually just tell you, like, this is this card on them. And they're actually decent cards. You know, that's the weird thing. Planar Bridge, Grim Tutor, Triumph of the Hordes, Wrath of God. Just decent cards, but they're just like Fortnite-y. And then Fortnite lands.
Good.
I don't know. It's like,
why is this a thing? Why do we keep doing this?
Look, at least these two, I'm going to give Wizards a thing that, like, if they want to do this shit, at least they're just reskins. It's like the Godzilla ones and stuff that they did, you know.
At least just a reskin, so it's whatever.
It's if people really like Fortnite and Magic the Gathering, which I'm sure there is a community that mixes matches.
There's probably some crossover.
Yeah.
And I've played Fortnite, like, a couple of times.
I played it when it was still building.
Years ago.
Yeah.
At this point.
They do say it's supposed to be better now they took out building, but I remember that days, because I tried to play it during that time period. I was trying it out with friend of the show, Will, because we were talking about getting a crew together and playing, like, once a week. But we found out we were both terrible.
That's fair.
So we decided not to. Because we had done stuff like playing on some PUBG and some other stuff like that from back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, they're just reprints. Good cards. That's all that matters. It's fine.
And the thing is, it's like, it's 7 cards, too. I mean, that's like the other thing. A lot of these sets are like 3 or 4 cards nowadays. And it's a set of 7 of them, which means it's even more value. It's like, I feel so terrible because I'm like, oh god, like, if I needed some of these cards, like, even if it was not Fortnite, I'd want to get them. God, that's the problem. It's like, fuck, it's actually, like, you know, got value to it in a general sense.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I can't tell you off the top of my head which of these cards actually have price-wise value. That you'd have to look into. I think Grim Tutor is a little up there, and Planar Bridge. But I don't know if there are enough, like, there's other people that'll do a full deep dive analysis at actual price points and stuff, but on the surface.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the value of anything on the second market anymore.
I gave up on that until I, like, randomly am like, I want to get something. Which is, like, maybe once every few years that I, like, get an individual card. But, I mean, like, the land ones, they suck. They're just lands, and they're stupid.
They're lands, and they're not interesting. One's a farm, shark cliff, swamp.
You have to be, like, such a fan of Fortnite to want them, and even then it's like...
I don't know. Are these like places in the game on the map? I don't know.
Maybe they used to be. They changed the map a lot. I know that much. But I'm going to say this also. It's still only one of each land.
Yeah.
That's not useful. Give like people 4. I've heard other Magic the Gathering people online talk about this. They should just do 4. It's lands. Just give like 4 of each of the lands at least. If it's basic lands.
Yeah, basic lands aren't that expensive.
No.
They're land cards.
And like land bling is not the best bling. That's kind of like the lowest level of like Magic the Gathering bling you want, because it's just like, it's basic lands. Oh yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like getting
even like when they did the weird, cool, traditional Japanese art lands for Kamigawa, they're still just basic lands.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. He's kind of fit in the camp of, at least it's not the worst secret lair they've had.
Yeah, I mean, eventually there will logically be enough Fortnite cards to make an entire Fortnite deck if this continues.
Honestly, yes.
Just I'll get specifically Shrinking Storm, just so I can destroy everyone's creatures with a Fortnite card.
Just rather God.
Just
God.
Just fuck you.
Oh my God! I'm just reading this here. Fans attend San Diego Comic-Con to visit the Wizard of Coast booths for a fun photo shoot. If they're saying that in the Fortnite thing, it's going to be Magic and Fortnite at their booth, and it's going to be awful.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's going to be bad. Wow.
So I hope that they put Magic the Gathering characters into Fortnite, because it would be hilarious.
Jace just shoots someone.
Just Jace or like fucking Vivian or whatever, just with a gun.
Yes. Honestly, at this rate, I wouldn't be surprised.
There's Marvel characters and fucking there's so much stupid shit in Fortnite.
Oh yeah, there's like so many weird like random skins they've done now of like characters.
You know what? Put good old good boy Dritz in Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
Put him in there. Put him and his friends in there as skins.
You can have like a cat backpack that's like Guinevere or whatever that cat's name is. I never pronounced it correctly.
I don't know shit about Truth. I don't know shit about that character. All I know about that character is Cell made a character in the game that was just an anagram of his name.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I know about that stupid character.
What I know about him is from, again, my favorite, the D&D's Miniatures game, because Dritz is actually pretty good miniature in that game.
I also know he has like a really dumb class spread.
Yes. Yes, he does. There's no denying that he has the worst class spread, like, ever. Anyway, let's leave this. There's something else that Wizards did. That's bad? Spelljammer Academy. I guess I could try to sign into this account and see if I can, get it
I'll
or
claim it just to look at it.
So, it's a series of 4 adventures that prepare you for journeys into space. There's like a Spelljammer Academy they're putting in. That's weird. I guess learn to be a space sailor.
Well, I've claimed it, so I have it when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So I always forget I have a D&D Beyond account.
I think I have the free.
Never used it. It's a 3 to 7 adventure. 3 to 7, designed for 3 to 7 first level character. Why would you ever have 7 people in the game? Good God. This academy is in Cholt. That's weird.
That's very weird.
Why Chult, specifically?
Why on
Why not,
Faerun?
like... Yeah, why... Why... Faerun doesn't... Are they adding spelljamming to Faerun? I mean, that's cool.
I mean, it could be something that could be introduced. It's sort of like... Because time still goes by in their universe, like, you know, back in the old days, they weren't, but there was evidence of it kind of influencing it. But because it was a planet that didn't have full, you know, connection to it, they didn't do it. They could be introducing that it's, like, beginning to become into it. Kind of like...
on Nimbral, which is south of Chult, or around Chult somewhere. Yeah, many miles south of Chult. So, like, there's just an island that's got spell jamming. Fair enough. It's full of elves, apparently. Moon elves, specifically.
Well, they might have the Moon Elves be the ones that are the space-going ones now. Maybe the entire idea of this is to, like, recruit people from the populaces or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I would assume that this is kind of the gateway into it. They're just going to introduce spell jamming into their main setting. Which is fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, I have nothing wrong with it. There's certainly, like, in the original spelljamming cosmos, there were planets that were like, hey, we know about spelljamming. You know, oh, now this is the thing that we've learned about, you know. Magical space flight. I mean, honestly, if someone comes up to you and, like, we learned magic to travel between the stars, and it's like, okay, cool. Wizards do that kind of shit all the time. Like, that's the problem with, like, you know, bringing it up to, like, people in Faerun or any, like, magical society. They're like, oh, yeah, that sounds about correct. Shit like that can happen. They're not going to be surprised, you know?
Yeah, I mean... Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just reading this little adventure thing.
Mm-hmm.
The first fight in it is against 2 bandits, which is not a hard fight for level 1 characters. You don't roll initiative for them. They act at the end of the initiative turn, and you roll on a table for something to happen every round. Which is interesting.
Interesting. I'm curious now. Well,
I just got, like, some bandits, there's a weird little hatchling monster, the veteran stat block, which just exists.
now let me just say that it just exists.
Yeah, I mean, its biggest use is you can use half-dragon veterans. That's the only use for the veteran stat block. Because otherwise it's just a man with a sword.
Just a generic man with a sword.
It's just a generic CR3 man who has a longsword.
Like, how you doing? I'm generic. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, this looks fine.
Yeah.
It's definitely, like, if you got new, like, super new people, and you want to do Spelljammer stuff, I think it's probably good for this. It looks like there's 4 parts, only the first part is out currently.
Okay, cool.
Interesting.
Well, let's still move on, though. There's some more stuff to talk about. Got a bunch of topics today. This one I'm sus on. Not because it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's gonna control like ass. Wrath of the Righteous is coming to consoles. Wrath of the Righteous is not a game I think could control on consoles very well.
No, I don't... Well, it depends, because, like, Stellaris is on console.
Yeah, but Stellaris, like, I feel like it's easier to pause and not have, like, a lot of, like, crazy action going on. You can, like, when you queue something up, you don't have to worry about it. Like, this is a turn-based thing where you're either doing the non-turn-based, where you have to just pay attention and quickly, like, pause or do on-the-fly actions really quickly, or it's turn-based.
I think Divinity Original Sin 2 is also on console.
That's at least pure turn-based.
Yeah.
The thing is, so far, having played Wrath of Righteous, I'm just going to do this here. They have an entire thing where you don't want to play it on turn-based because it's a 5-minute time limit, and 50 turns sucks.
Jesus Christ.
I played through 22 turns, took a bathroom break, looked up this thing to see how long it was, and learned it was a 5-minute time limit, and I'm like, fuck this. Just turned off of it and just dealt with the consequences, which were fine. I'd survived 22 turns relatively well. The rest of the time limit just didn't matter. Like, it spawned so many less enemies when I wasn't on turn-based because, I don't know, if it had spawned the amount of enemies that was spawning for me on turn-based mode, I would have been overwhelmed like there was no tomorrow. I don't understand it. They punished you for turn-based, but turn-based is the easier way to play, I've got to say. And it doesn't screw you. I got screwed over so many times, the original one, on non-turn-based. They're also doing a brand new DLC.
Yeah, there's another DLC for it. Like, I often think, hey, because I see Wrath of Righteous on sale, like, every couple of weeks. I often think to myself, you know, I like Pathfinder, I like this adventure path. And then the wheel in my head starts turning. It's like, I hated Kingmaker though.
I mean, honestly, I just as a side opinion about Wrath of Righteous so far, it's still just unfettered Pathfinder. It's been fine. There have been some very difficult fights that I feel like were outside of my CR they introduced very early. But I will say, they were on the cusp of it. So I could, like, rest and pretty much use all of my resources to defeat it, rather than early on, horrible death skull that if you just randomly rest at this place shows up and just murders your entire team instantaneously.
Nice.
Because you're, like, level 5 and you have to be, like, level 9 to fight it. Or, like, level 3, you know, and you have to be level 9 to fight it. Like, it was like Super Will-O-the-Wisp. I remember encountering that in the first game. Didn't encounter anything like that. I've hit things where they drag me to a place because of time limit. That was, it was fine. It was like, you know, there's an attack coming. Come back here right now. Okay, fine. You know, they teleported me back without spending time. I was fine with that. The stupid battle with the time limit, I at least looked it up and learned that, you know, after 22 turns. And then it was fine. But it was just sort of, like, stupid that they did it that way. And they don't tell me it's 5 minutes. That's the only thing I really was like, it's like, survive for 5 minutes. So I'm like, oh, okay, now I know what I'm getting my shit into. That's 50 turns. It's fine so far. It's a lot better than Kingmaker, but we haven't reached the king-making portion of it yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard the Crusade stuff is not particularly great.
Yes.
That's all I think. That's pretty much all I've heard. That's the main thing keeping me from it. And then also, like, every time I hear Cell talk about it, he's like, "Oh, the game's like super easy. You just have to set up these 30 macros to do your buffs." I'm like, no, get that away from me. I already have to deal with that in Roll20. I don't want to do it.
He does go on about it in such a way that I'm like,
but I don't want buff macro. I don't want to have to look up a guide for macros.
Cell likes AD&D a lot and is good at AD&D.
Second edition. That should tell you everything you need to know.
I'm okay with second edition. If someone came to me and asked me to do a second edition, not campaign, but an adventure, I would say yes, because I know second edition, I'm okay with it, and for the most part, it's fine. It's difficult, it's different, and it's punishing in comparison to a lot of more modern systems. Very punishing, but depending on where you're at and what level you are, you don't have to deal with a lot of that shit. Level drain doesn't show up until you're, like, higher, like, at least 5 or 6. If you're playing, like, a 3rd level campaign, you're not going to have to worry about fucking level drain, which is the thing I hate the most about 2nd edition.
Yep. I wonder how this will control on, like, console. I can't imagine, like, that.
I think it'll be okay. but I don't think it'll be well.
'Cause it's like, you've got Diablo and stuff on console, and they control, like, fine, but not great.
But you're also controlling one character, too.
Yeah.
This you're
Whereas,
controlling, like...
This you give a whole party.
Yeah, I think that's the issue, is you're controlling an entire party. Again, turn-based mode probably would make that easier, but then the problem is...
I know Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a very different kind of game. However, it has an isometric turn-based mode you can play. That was fine, mostly.
I think it's because they don't default to turn-based mode.
Yeah, and that's weird to me because it's a tabletop RPG. They're all turn-based.
This game, yes, you can play it not in turn-based mode, but the thing is, it works better in turn-based mode, I feel like, because you can then pay attention to, the order of operations and a lot of things, and, then a lot of the, I'm sorry, not in turn-based mode, you either have to be pausing it for long periods of time and set up a whole bunch of shit, and, I gotta tell you, trying to target enemies in non-turn-based mode was terrible. I don't know how people do it. I was trying to do that shit and, not get people murdered. I took so much more damage, but I was fortunately, not really damaged in non-turn-based mode than I did in turn-based mode. I was getting the shit beat out of me. Fortunately, apparently, 2 minutes is not a lot of time. 3 minutes was fine enough. Anyway. I don't know. It's fine for both being on consoles. If, you want to play it on PlayStation, one of the PlayStations, Xbox, or I guess Nintendo Switch via cloud, apparently. Go ahead. I mean,
Could be fun.
Find out if you like this style of game.
Make sure you like, because this game is not cheap.
No.
It's I think it's a full price game. I could be wrong. I think it's full price. Right, it's 60, it might be 50.
No, it was never that expensive.
How expensive are you, Grant the Righteous?
I don't think it was.
You are it's $49.99. It's $50. Full price game.
I got it on sale. I think I got it
it's usually on sale for $20, which I think is the price I would pay for it, because that's the price I paid for Kingmaker, and that was enough for me to feel like I didn't like this game, but I don't feel like it wasted money.
Yeah. Be experienced with CRPGs. This is not your first CRPG you should play.
No, if you want your first CRPG, I recommend a Divinity game.
Yeah. The Divinity games are really good and worth it. Divinity 2 especially. I'd recommend
Divinity Original Sin, very good.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I played all of 3 hours of it.
If you're coming at it as aside from a Pathfinder fan, which, there's plenty of us out there, honestly, Wrath of Righteous I would recommend currently over Kingmaker. It does a lot to improve some stuff on Kingmaker I've already seen. But then the other thing is that I will say, be careful about it. It is unbridled Pathfinder. It is... You don't have a DM to fix any mistakes that kind of occur, or, curtail things in a way that is honestly more fair.
Another note I will say, this is Pathfinder First Edition.
Oh yeah.
Do a little research into the classes and races, because you can very much make something that doesn't work, and then you just have a terrible time. Do a little bit of reading.
I made a halfling witch because there's very little undead, and even demons can fall asleep, and it's hilarious when I knock a demon out.
That is pretty funny.
And have the paladin go over it and then smite and coup de grace. Granted, they mostly make their saves because they have a ridiculous bonus, but, it's the times that they don't.
Yeah, those are the funny parts.
Look, that's why I have my character. My character is occasionally I get an instant death on one of these on one of the enemies. Or at least disable them long enough to kill everything else. Something else about Paizo. July is their anniversary.
That's true.
20th anniversary of Paizo overall. and 15th anniversary of their Lost Omens. They're basically their Galarian campaign setting.
How old is Paizo?
20 years.
God, I know people younger than Paizo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I do too. Unfortunately. Or fortunately, I don't know. It's that mixed bag.
No.
Yeah, July in 2002, back in July of that year, back around when 3rd edition was, I think that was fresh 3rd edition out around that time.
I think so.
Paizo, started off with stuff.
That was all the way back in the day.
Yeah.
Used to write for Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, in the Dragon magazine.
And then that expired, and then they made their own thing.
That was 2007, apparently. That's when it
2007 is when that magazine expired.
Yeah, after 5 years in their books, and it was the Kobold King adventures that they started out with, the first ones. So, man, I think it's just an interesting thing to see that like the company's come a long way. They've done a good job. Honestly, it shows that people can make something out of nothing. You know, you can build something. It's 15 years of Galarian and 15 years of building their own system, kind of, or getting into it. You know. And of course, I think what it is that Kobold King book is like a combination of the 3 original Kobold King adventures.
It's the whole thing from way back in the day.
Yeah, new art, new style. You know, kind of like they fixed it up from those old adventures.
Yeah, the 3 original adventures.
God, man. Well, happy anniversary, Paizo, and a happy birthday to you. 20 years, and honestly, you've certainly improved the RPG space. You know, go ahead.
I will say, this is my personal opinion. I've said it many times before. Honestly, I probably would not be in the tabletop gaming space if it was not for Pathfinder 1st Edition. Because I had tried things before 1st Edition, and I didn't like them. But then I tried Pathfinder 1st Edition, and I loved it. And I still love it to this day.
Things might have changed for me, too. Like, we tried out 4th Edition, but we weren't, like, super in love with 4th Edition was the thing. And that was, like, a hard one to play not pre-made adventures with back in the day, because you had to have so many maps and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So honestly, if we didn't have Pathfinder there, I don't know what my Norvigil gaming group would have done. We might have broken up and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
With, Joe, Blaze, myself, you know, and a bunch of others. You know, when one of our other DM, because it was me and another person with the 2 DMs of our group, came to us and like, hey, here's this game, Pathfinder. It's just basically 3.75. And we looked at it and we're like, oh, this is cool. This is what we want to play, but it's better than what we were playing. This is what we wanted 4th edition to be, you know, all of a sudden, you know? Okay. It's like, man, that was fine, but it wasn't what we wanted, you know? I think that's what won us all over and kept us going and reinvigorated us for a lot of years, honestly.
Yeah, I've played a lot of Pathfinder 1st Edition. Granted, when 5e didn't come out but became popular, which was a couple years after it came out, the game group kind of switched that for a bit, and then I stopped playing Pathfinder for a while. But eventually, I've gone back to Pathfinder with thanks to you when you ran Carrying Crown, and for all of the pain and suffering that was that adventure, I had a fun time still.
That's the thing, is I think it was fine. There was some pain and suffering. I feel like some other people didn't enjoy it as much, which is unfortunate, but it was like, there was a lot of issues. Like,
some people made, unfortunately, not great characters. Some people went in expecting I don't really know what they were expecting. I don't think they knew of Pathfinder that well.
It's such a different style than 5th edition, and I think that's the thing, is it can even if you play, it's because it's like it's close to it, but it's not close enough, and I think that's why you get expectations towards 5th edition. Like if I come to someone and be like, here's a World of Darkness game, that's a really different game. You know, it's not a D20 system. It's not like got similar stats. It's got completely different mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're expecting something different. While this is like, you have the same stats. Oh, you make saving throws. You have an AC. You have an attack bonus. You have similar classes. You have similar, you know, races. You have similar all this. You know, it's expectations, I think.
Yep.
Anyway, happy anniversary, Paizo. Glad you're back.
Keep making good things, please.
Oh, definitely. Honestly, like, I'm gonna guess they're probably eventually gonna do a Starfinder 2nd edition. I'm interested in how that.
I would expect it, because it'll probably end up being more like Pathfinder 2nd edition, because
yeah,
Starfinder's already kind of like an in-between the 1st edition and 2nd edition.
They might improve on what they've been learning at 2nd edition, you know. You learn as you evolve your system. I'm expecting it's not going to be for a couple number of years at this point in time still. But,
oh, probably.
Speaking of RPGs, Shadowrun. This one I've got to talk about because there's a Shadowrun Humble bundle.
Ooh.
Now, it is 6th edition stuff, so, I mean, it's the Humble bundle. It's, you know, a charity thing. $25 will be the one to get you all the... actually, it looks like $18 will get you all the items, but they suggested $25. And you could go up to $35 or more. You know, it's normal. Yeah. It's charity. It's a bunch of books from it. Again, like I will say, 6th edition, from my reading through it, it's fine. It has its issues. I would suggest 4th or 5th edition more, but they are more complex, technically.
6th edition is okay. It's one of the things of, like, I think it's a little... They tried to dumb it down a little bit, and it didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is me coming from someone who has only played Shadowrun 4th edition. I've never played 5th edition or anything. I've only played 4E.
4E, 5E, they're basically the same. 5E just changes some of the skill systems.
I think 5E is like an easier character creation as well.
Yeah, and they bring back some of the way the skills work in slightly older systems. They were a little larger numbered, which is fine. I don't mind that. It's just, you know, slight differences. And 6th edition again. It's fine. You know, if you want to support some charity and you want to try it out, Shadowrun's really awesome world. That's the big thing to say about it.
Is like one of my favorite worlds.
I agree. They have a very in-depth world that they created a really cool, you know, sort of like, the more you hear about Galarian's really awesome. Shadowrun is just basically a weird alternate timeline version of our world, that crazy magical based shit, and it's also futuristic because it's like 70 years, now it's 80 years, well, for us, 60 years in the future.
Yeah.
But like, the timeline diverged in the 90s. So like, a lot of like developments happened differently.
Magic returned, there was a big plague, a bunch of fantasy races showed up from I think from the plague.
Corporation.
I think the plague is what caused the orcs and shit to show up.
No, it was around the same time as it, but it was like also a couple years apart kind of thing. There was the big plague. Goblinization happened before that, the plague. But then there was also like corporations became their own countries that rivaled power of actual countries, which then led to, which honestly, in a way, led to technological innovation because they all competed with each other for having the best and, you know, most powerful. Strangely enough, it drove technology. The megacorps kind of going into like a Cold War with each other, which they're technically still in. They never left that Cold War. They just have a council that, like, you know, they basically have their own UN that makes them not murder each other. They still hate each other. Unless they're going to earn money and control by working with someone temporarily. It's usual that kind of stuff. Megacorps, they're mostly evil.
True.
I'm gonna try something here. Yay! Modifius' page is now working. Oh
nice.
God, I was earlier when I was trying to get on here when I found out about this. I was like, oh, their page is down. But yeah, so Humble. Check it out if you're interested. Honestly, it's 6th edition might be a great place to introduce yourself to Shadowrun.
Could be. You would have previous expectations of the previous editions, and you could always go back.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you want to go for some small adventures, I'd recommend trying and learning that. It's sort of like, it's kind of like 5th edition. 5th edition, I would really recommend for small adventures. Larger campaigns, I'd recommend something more like Pathfinder or Pathfinder 2nd edition. They're better for longer campaigns.
Yep.
Modifius is having a 2D20 day.
Woo.
It's kind of like sales, prizes, and an announcement in 3 days. You know, it's a little bit like, I think the big thing about it is it's a big sale they're having, but they're planning on also having, like, you know, big announcements and prizes and stuff, which is cool. 20% off their core RPG products that are all the 2D20 stuff. A system reference document is going to be released. That's a toolkit for you to craft your 2D20 systems.
Yeah, that's good. Because that's basically like, hey, here's a creative license, you can use our system.
Yeah. That's the big thing that's going to be released as part of this.
That's the big thing that interests me.
Yeah. Starting playing games will also have some kind of event that's connected with them, which is another virtual tabletop kind of thing, I think. It looks.
Yeah, it's a VTT.
Mm-hmm. And like, apparently, if you're a game master and run a 2D20 game with 2 verified players, there's random prizes.
Hey, you know.
Yeah.
You could randomly win $1,000 to spend on the Modifius bookstore.
I mean,
$1,000 gift card. Books are expensive.
I could buy $1,000 with a Modifius book, so I would be happy.
Oh yeah, books are expensive. I could buy like the fucking Fallout Miniatures War game because that's a cool. I played it. It's really cool and expensive because it's a miniatures game.
I can get the rest of the Star Trek books. I'd love to have them in, like, you know, I only have the core book. The Fallout books, a couple other ones would be kind of neat to have.
Alien RPG is one I've like been really looking at.
The Stargate one I'd like to do. I'm a fan of Stargate. That's the only reason why. Linear Zero might be neat to get. Like, I can like list a whole bunch of them on on their site that would definitely be cool for. I don't know if I'm not on that virtual tabletop, and I don't know if I know any verified players on that virtual tabletop.
I don't know what that. I've never heard of that virtual tabletop until like you've said its name.
So I mean, like, you know, probably not me, but it's neat. And the SRD being released is really cool.
Yes, that'll be very nice because I have, you know, it's nice to design your own games sometimes, and 2D20 systems are honestly very easy to design.
Yeah, the systems are actually like I certainly feel like there's types of games where it wouldn't be at work as well without a lot of work, but from our experience with both Star Trek and Fallout, they work decently.
Yeah,
I feel like
they're pretty logical in how they work.
See, like, Fallout has combat, but I feel like it's like an exploration game.
The way that the core rulebook describes it is it's the 4 pillars, but combat's like the last pillar.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like,
with Fallout, there's gonna be combat. It's a horrible hellscape.
Yeah. And the fact is, like, it already feels like, because we'll talk about it. We did like a 2-shot, or we're doing like now. It's better combat than Star Trek.
Oh god, yes. Star Trek combat is so bad.
Oh, you're not really supposed to get a combat.
No, because combat's not a thing in Star Trek. They don't fight.
Yeah.
Usually. Yeah.
Occasionally you might need a phaser fight or something, but that's like the rarity, you know.
Star Trek is not gritty. You don't fight people. You talk it out.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek's a talking game.
Mm-hmm. You talk it out, or you make some negotiations, or make a scientific discovery that you can share with them in order to win them over or something like that.
Sometimes you time travel or something. I don't know, they do that in Star Trek a lot.
They do that in Star Trek.
Time travel quite a bit.
A little too much time travel, but whatever. They're trying their best. They're just time traveling a bit. But yeah, 2D20 Day. Very interesting. Very nice to hear about it, and I'm glad their website is functioning. As earlier, when I saw this announced somewhere else, I went to their website, and I'm like, this isn't loading up. Why?
Website is crashed.
It's just we can't connect with the website right now. I'm like, that might not be good.
No, that's not good at all.
A little hiccup. So, Roll20 and OneBookShelf are partnering. And here is the press release that I got for it on a site here. OneBookShelf manages things like Drive-Thru RPG and Dungeon Masters Guild.
Yep.
So, this is a pretty big thing for Roll20, I think.
This is very good and has literally no downsides.
Because now, you're accessing stuff, connecting, your Drive-Thru RPG stuff to your Roll20 stuff, or vice versa at this point in time. Yeah. Man. Yeah.
This is, good.
It makes it easier for people to put, stuff that would be, on Roll20, onto Roll20, too, kind of thing.
Yep.
You're going through your Drive-Thru RPG, which is a big place. A lot of, little people put their stuff up on. Maybe they have a Kickstarter or something, but even if you don't do a Kickstarter, you can sometimes just, publish something on
a lot of books that get Kickstarted just get sold through Drive-Thru RPG, too.
Yeah. So, even if you missed the Kickstarter, if you want to see it, it's just up on Drive-Thru RPG, and there you go, Man, there isn't a really big downside to this, I don't think. I guess there could be ways they combined it that could cause some issues, but on the surface, this should just be good for people.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it's kind of there's been some merger stuff going on too, because I think this guy is a CEO of something who's now also involved in another thing. But that's just kind of how these work.
Mm-hmm.
Business is complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend not to look into it that much because it hurts my brain. But as someone, if you just play tabletop RPGs and our DM, this is good. Because it helps you manage stuff a lot easier.
And the big thing that they're talking about here is there's going to be PDF support on Roll20's virtual tabletop. So GMs and players will have the ability to upload, read, share, and immediately play using PDFs in virtual tabletop.
I'm so glad that they're going to do PDFs.
Yeah. And then eventually they're going to do the OneBookShelf PDF libraries accessible on Roll20, and things like that, So, I mean, yeah, the big thing I think is the PDF stuff. Definitely.
The other big thing, it's very important to note.
Mm-hmm.
OneBookShelf PDFs will not count towards Roll20 storage.
Thank you.
They will be stored separately.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
You do not get a lot of storage on Roll20 unless you pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I currently pay for it, and I still don't have that much storage.
I do pay for it a little bit. I got the subscription.
Maps take up a lot of space.
I technically got the subscription because I wanted to be able to, not only keep all the characters I had, but, do stuff with them sometimes, maybe.
I have, just the basic subscription. I mainly got it because I was tired of having such a tiny upload limit.
I
Because
understand that.
detailed maps are big.
I originally got it. Like nowadays, it's better for that too. But I originally got it like because I wanted access to Badger's character sheet.
That's fair.
And that game was kind of borked on your end, and I remember I had like
Yeah, that game
downloaded
like
it.
broke, which is wild.
Hmm. I mean, it sometimes happens. Something that goes wrong with it.
Yeah, some updates break stuff. It just happens.
Yeah.
But, like, as someone who runs 2 games, both of which use maps pretty regularly, you need a lot of storage space.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. It's good for our community. All right.
Yes.
I got one more RPG-related thing, and usually I choose like one RPG Kickstarter that's just interesting or strange or something like that, or just stands out. And this one's fine. It's like a interesting magical girl, reincarnation, self-discovery, feelings, relationships with each other kind of game thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Fine.
Honestly, I more than anything just wanted to shout it out.
Yeah.
It's the more we get more creative or unique views in the RPG space, the better it is. And I feel like having a lot of these smaller games, which are still fun to play and interesting, are great. And
Yep.
the more of these I can shout out.
I'm always of the opinion that it is good to give smaller creators a big platform to shout them out on, get them out there, especially because many of the emerging and people trying to break into this industry are of a more diverse crowd compared to the old guard of tabletop RPG.
The Gygaxes and all.
The Gygaxes
Yeah.
who say things they shouldn't.
Well, I mean, like, I'm sure original Gary Gygax probably said things he didn't, but he's from the 70s.
He's a product of his time. These people are alive today.
Yeah. Like, Gygax Jr. has no right to say things.
Nope.
Gygax Sr., he should have known better, but again, product of time?
Product of time happens.
You give a level of excuse looking back at it. You know? That's what you do. There is some, like, weird, not great stuff in the original editions of D&D. Even 2nd edition has some weird stuff in it that you're like, why is this here? And this is just strange.
All of the Drow lore.
The Drow lore, they fixed it a lot, and then they made it worse. I don't know. They went way too far in trying to fix it. I think, there's... I have my opinions on Drow lore. I think there's some good parts of it and some bad parts of it, certainly.
I'll just say that there are reasons why I don't use official lore, because I hate most of it.
I mean, I've heard about the new lore, and I'm like, I don't like that at all.
The new lore just doesn't have enough.
Yeah.
The old lore is kind of bad.
Again, like, I felt like they could have just improved the new lore, like, when they were like, rather than making Loth a cult, they could have just been like, Loth's influence has waned into more of a cult-like status than it used to be, as the Drow society has turned from more of like evil over the last couple of decades last 100 years to more of like a neutral. And I'm like, that sounds cool. They've had a revolution kind of in their own society that they've managed to like reduce their influence of their evil goddess. That could happen over hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Make it a part of the story.
Also just kind of comes from like, as a modern viewing of Drow, they're a little problematic in many ways.
They are. There's a lot about it, that just...
2nd and even 3rd edition was written in a different time.
Yeah.
We'll just say that.
You have to think, like, even early 2000s was a different time than it is now.
It's like
20 years ago.
God, yeah. Things are so different now than they were 10 years ago.
Yeah. You can use Drow and do very interesting ways of doing it.
Yeah.
God. There was like a little bit of there was a webcomic I read a little bit of back in the day that did a very interesting take on, a matriarchal Drow society and made it interesting. I can't remember much about it now. But they did it in an interesting way. is what I mean. Like, they did the Drow Society, but they took it very far away from what D&D does and made it a real society.
Yeah.
They didn't dissuade things like, having an evil, kind of more evil goddess. They just also made it that, like, people are people, Yeah, your goddess has some horrible opinions, but, like, you've got your devout people that are really terrible. It's got, like, a lot of normal people that just, they're, like, there, Like, it's sort of like, I have to, like, compare it to, like, something like, time period. Crusades. Crusades were kind of terrible. They were a Christian-based thing. The average peasantry didn't give a fuck. They were just there. They're like,
Other problems.
They had other problems. Average people just have normal problems. They're not the big religious people. And those people sometimes are in charge, and sometimes they lose influence. And they're not as in charge anymore. They might still be there, but anyway.
Yes, it's funded, which is good for them.
Yeah. 12 days to go.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, recommend.
Check it out.
Yep. A couple board games to talk about. Let's finish up with that.
Board games?
Yeah. Let's start with...
like those.
Come On Games has announced a Dune board game, War for Arrakis.
Oh god, I hope it's less complicated than the Dune board game that already exists.
They don't say. They're just announcing it and talking about it a little bit. Like, that's the problem is... They're like, this is the kind of thing we're going to do. And I'm like, you don't tell us about the system at all.
Dude, I hope it's better than Dune Imperium, because Dune Imperium is kind of a nightmare to play. It's a little bit overcomplicated.
I'll stick this here. Their announcement about it. Look, I'm glad, Dune's an interesting IP right now.
You got it. There you go.
Yeah. It had the newer movie. It's got some fandom. The RPG is out now. It's a fine day for it. It's a strategy board game, and they are going to Kickstarter it this year. They're planning on doing that. Again, for companies like this, the Kickstarter is not because they can't put it out.
It's advertising. It's
advertising. Which, again, actually, I don't mind that for also Kickstarter for advertising, because if you give enough, like, bonuses and stuff like that to people, it's, it's like, it's the weird thing of, like, it's pre-order bonuses, but it's pre-order bonuses that people can see ahead of time and know whether they're interested in it or not. And also, like, honestly, they're just bonuses, It's weird. That's a weird way of saying it. Also, sometimes you just get the game a little cheaper if you get it on a Kickstarter. You're in the first wave.
Usually is a little cheaper on Kickstarter.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, that's the other thing is, like, I would have pre-ordered video games more if they're like, you get $5 off if you pre-order it now, or $10 off. I'm like, oh, that seems like a great deal. Cool. And also, like, I knew it was actually good or something,
Yeah. Dune is my absolute... The first book, the sequels are not good. I'll just tell you that much right now.
Mm-hmm.
The first book is my favorite science fiction book ever written. Sequels, however, you maybe skip those. Dune is like a really cool world. The movie also great. I as much as Imperium kind of is too complicated, I still like it. I'll probably eventually play this at some point. With my board gaming group.
Cool.
I like this kind of stuff.
Let's talk about our next topic here. I got a couple more. Just a few more small ones. This one is technically... I only wanted to talk about it because... where the hell am I with this? Oh, I already put that here. My brain's not working a little bit. Don't mind me. Only because... I'm pretty sure on this show I talked about the first one of this. I don't know if it was with you or with Joe, but the Parks game, which was like a really neat like game that showed off like national parks and stuff, and like stuff on national parks. They're doing an expansion with wildlife.
Those are part of parks usually.
Unique illustrations from 7 well-known artists, an all-new set of trail sites to visit, sustainably sourced custom wood tokens, custom illustrated bison wildlife tours, new gear, canteens, season parks pass. They're using wood tokens, which I'm good about, too.
Nice.
And a 1% of every sale donated to National Park Service.
That's nice.
It's not a huge amount, but still, like, you know, it's still money towards the national parks, so, you know. Enough sales, and it's a big chunk of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a game. It's already had an expansion, but the wildlife one stood out for me because it's like really now you're getting wildlife.
Yeah. Animals exist in these parks, guys. Did you know?
Yeah. I liked the idea of this early on too. That, you know, it's nice to like be like, oh, cool, another one, neat.
Probably seen a few of these parks.
I've been to a few parks. Like, I can scream that I've been to... I know I've been to, like, Zion. Zion is nice. I think Bryce Canyon's a state park, but I've been there in Utah. Grand Canyon. Been to the Grand Canyon. Was in the Smoky Mountains area. Briefly. Well, that's over by Gatlingsburg, which also partially burned down. Sucks for them. But again, like, I'm going to tell you, Gatlingsburg, if you ever want to visit a place that screams tourist trap in every aspect of the word, Gatlingsburg.
I've been to Shenandoah a few times. It's in Virginia.
I think it's probably not. It's probably just bad.
It's like pretty because it's the Appalachian.
Oh, the park, yeah. But I mean, like Gatlinburg, which is on the edge of it, and then that's over near Dollywood too. Dollywood's kind of nice. I haven't been to the place, but at least the town nearby, Pigeon Forge, that was fine. Pigeon Forge was along a highway. That's where they had all their touristy stuff. That felt right, instead of just in a winding trail through the mountains into a park.
Yeah.
There's probably other couple like national parks I've been to that I can't remember, because it's hard to sometimes tell between national and state parks.
Yeah, I know I've been to a decent amount of state parks in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there's a few of them, and I've been to a few in like Maryland and Virginia and stuff like that over the years. There's some very nice places.
And I've definitely been to Mammoth Cave because I've been to Kentucky multiple times to visit family.
That would be nice. I've got Lost River Canyons caverns near me, which is another, it's not as big, but it is like a cave area that I know is a little known in the area. But it's not Mammoth Cave. That'd be really nice to visit. There's definitely some cool cave things I would like to visit. Because they're usually curated and you don't have to go get lost in the depths.
Caves are cool.
They're cool, but exploring them on your own does not seem like a great idea most of the time.
Horrific. It sounds horrific.
Mm-hmm. There are people that do that. They're insane. Cave diving.
I'd rather not.
I know how to scuba dive. I'm probably really rusty at it, but I know. I learned. I got certified. I'd love to do that. Not into a cave. Let's talk about our last topic for today. On our main topics. Isle of Trains! It's an engine building experience for 1 to 4 players. So you're kind of like building like a little train engine-y thing. It feels like a little... I don't know how to explain it. Because, like, it was interesting. Me more because, like, you know, it's a neat kind of thing to, like, build your own train kind of thing. And, like, engines and island cards. And, you know, we were talking about Ticket to Ride the other week. That's why it came to mind.
Yeah. God, please give me an explanation of what your game is. Let's scroll down so far. You're just building like a train car.
Yeah, you're just building a train car. Yeah. New train cars, upgrade your engines. You pay with your train cards in your hands. It's basically you're building, I guess, the best train of them all. You know? If it's 1 to 4 players, there's got to be, like, some kind of goal in mind.
I assume we have the best train, right? It's got it.
Yeah. And you like, I guess if you're doing single player, there's probably like rules for like trying to get like a certain number of points or something.
Like you assume you get points for something.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's gonna be on tabletops, and that's advertised here.
Nice. And they got some stretch goals and stuff that they're doing. Bigger little wooden figures. Other stuff like that. They are funded. Where are they at anyway? They're very funded.
They're super funded.
They're not at. They're a new tile ticket. I haven't finished that. Linen finished cards. Printings on a drawstring brag. Thicker box. Punchboard thickness increased. Screen printing on the train meeple. So, the little wooden train they've actually got like a screen printing on it. Better card stock. Box spot UV. Bigger things they funded for. I mean, a lot of these are just like, I actually understand a lot of these. These are like weird goals that are actually great because it's sort of like, if we get enough funding, we're just gonna make our stuff slightly better quality. I'm like, wow,
it's pretty cool.
That's actually like really nice. I'm like, hey, you fund us more, you get better quality stuff. Man. So, okay. God, I need a topic for today. I was too distracted with all of our things talking about it that I didn't include one of these. Oh, hey, have we done that topic? Have I not deleted it? No, we haven't done that topic. Let's do this one, because we did bring up Carrion Crown, and it is an interesting one to talk about with bringing it up. And that is the topic of a character that does not fit a game. Because that can happen.
We've all experienced that.
Yeah. Now, there's levels of this, too. Like all things, there's different levels. There's the character that, intrinsically as it stands, will never work in the game you're playing. Pirate Man? Would you think Pirate Man didn't really fit that game at all?
Didn't fit that game, no.
He was a fine character.
His character was fine. He just... some weird decisions in building the character were made, and I don't know why the character wasn't there.
Well, again, I think it's the thing of, you can have characters that are just fine characters that don't fit. There are characters that maybe need a little bit of work. Honestly, something more akin to, Ling. Now, Ling had many issues. We've talked about that in the past. I've talked about it with Lightning, about what's going on. But on the character side of things, the stat-wise, the stats didn't work really well. And I let Lightning change the stats around a little bit to make it fit better with the game, because it was understanding Pathfinder more. Your character changing from a multi-class ranger druid to a hunter.
Yeah, that was just because I fucked up the order.
Well, understanding that, there was an option for this, things like that.
Oops, I should have started with druid. Oops.
Yeah, well, there are things you can do to mess up a character a lot. And
sometimes it's not even that hard to mess up a character.
Yeah. And it comes into two sides when, even when you're messing. There's, so many different degrees of this you have to worry about. When it doesn't fit, sometimes you can make it fit. That's not always easy. And there are two ways. There's the stat-wise. Stat-wise is sort of honestly, as much as I liked Jess's character for Carrion Crown, a witch in a game where you're fighting undead.
Yeah, that really, unfortunately, didn't work that well, even though she made, the ideal quote-unquote witch. Undead can't be put to sleep. Undead aren't really affected by most things witches do.
Yeah, that's the thing. Witches can't really affect undead very well.
Yeah.
And Carrion Crown is hey, it's a very undead-centric campaign. Well, not that a witch couldn't work.
There are definitely certain ones that could.
Certain spells that could.
Healing Witch would have been really good because you can use healing spells to damage. But just picked Occult, which is a more like creating undead witch, which doesn't really work in an undead themed campaign.
Yeah. Not that you couldn't be a necromancer or
you could definitely make it work, but it's hard.
The only way to fight undead is with more undead.
Yeah, throw some more zombies onto the pile.
I mean, that is a strategy.
Yeah, I mean, and also like control undead and stuff.
Yeah, in Ustalav, it's not outside of the thing. But again, like, a lot of the choices weren't great for fighting undead, so the character doesn't fit very well. The character still worked, but it just didn't fit very well in the game. And even like the way that Jess played the character worked fine. Of course, you can play a character that it doesn't work fine. Honestly, I got to think of a character that like is just played in a certain way that doesn't fit. Oh, back in the day, when Diamond Worm ran a RPG on his channel, someone there, just I can't remember who it was, but they were basically a 2nd edition player, and we were doing like a 5th edition. They did not play their character in a way that worked for the game. Their character was fine. You know, it's a 5th edition character. You can't really. It's hard to screw 5th edition.
You can't really fuck up a 5th edition character.
It's very hard.
You actually can't. Like,
it's really, really, really hard to get bad at 5th edition.
You have to try.
Yeah, that's effort that you have to make in to make a 5th edition character have problems.
The conscious decision.
Yeah. So like certainly, the character was fine, but just the way that they acted and wanted to play didn't pertain to the game's style. Because the game, they were certainly on a more, I guess, heavy combat focus. And not that the game didn't have combat, but it was a mixed focus. And you always felt like, you know, as soon as we were doing a lot of role-playing and story stuff, it just didn't work with the character. And like, it's like we couldn't explain the character being there, the storyline, you know? The character was just there in our group.
It's kind of like Pirate Man.
It is kind of like Pirate Man.
Because you probably heard Pirate Man mentioned more than a few times. Pirate Man was played by someone who's a very good friend of mine. They still are a very good friend of mine, despite them maybe not being the best players. He basically made a character that was a pirate. That's why he's called Pirate Man. But he made certain decisions in like how the character would act. The character hated the like majority population of this continent. It was just like overly rude to them. And then didn't understand why they didn't want to talk to him.
As clarification, it wasn't like, you know, he made the character like racist. He made the character just like spiteful for other people.
Spiteful and like bullheaded, not racist.
So it didn't matter what they were. It's just they were people, and they were not, you know, they were like below him or something. I guess. Or something.
Yeah, it was really weird. And at like halfway through the game, I was very tempted to go in DMs and just ask, okay, why are you still in this party? Why haven't you just left if you don't like it? And that's a character that can happen the most frequently in 5th edition, I feel.
I think in any edition you can get that.
Yeah, but like in 5th edition you can't really mechanically fuck up the character.
That's true.
There's not a lot of mix matching in 5th edition with class stuff.
I guess certainly older editions and like other game systems, you can certainly screw up character builds a lot more and make it a lot more, and then it's a lot more easier to have characters that have problems with the game. Like, I can like point out systems that like there's plenty of them, like a Shadowrun game where it's all about, stealing stuff, you're playing an assassin character. You're good at killing people.
Yeah. Doesn't really fit.
Shadowrun, assassination is a type of Shadowrun job. It's just most Shadowrunners don't take it. It would be interesting to play a character that doesn't have qualms against that, and then maybe, you're taking another job for the reasons though your skills don't work. Maybe you have enough skills on the side that it could work, kind of thing, if you build for that. So then you're building for that a little bit in your character, still having the assassination abilities and having that interesting storyline. But you have to plan for that rather than just I want to be an assassin. There, I'm done. I made an assassin. What's our storyline? Yeah. Oh, that doesn't seem to work with my character.
I've certainly made characters that mechanically don't work. I don't think you ever made a character that roleplay wise doesn't work. I don't think I've done that one yet.
I've encountered them. I think I've had a few that have been borderline back in the day. Nowadays, with my current experience level and how I've experienced things in games, I specifically avoid characters like that. I can make meme-like characters or slightly problematic characters, but I still make sure they work.
Yeah, I don't really play meme characters. I will play characters that have a joke associated with them, Elf Guy from Lightning's one game, who got real fucked up by the end of that one. Mm-hmm. The mask was a joke originally.
Badger.
Yeah.
Badger started out. I played Badger relatively serious though, even though he was
Badger was kind of jokey, but he was a very serious character.
Yeah. He was just a good guy that wanted to do a lot of good in the world, It's I can make some money while doing good? That seems awesome,
Cole. His entire thing, the entire joke of his character, he's just a dude. Yeah. He's a normal dude in a party of weirdos, right? But he's a serious character.
Yeah. And, it's the Magic the Gathering, it's Dominaria. Weird shit happens to people all the time.
Normal dudes just exist. People just find stuff on the ground and then weird shit happens to them in Magic. Yeah. Because, it's another world where there's, been a lot of ancient cultures with very powerful magic items. So you could be, kick something and you're like, what the hell is this? Oh, it's some kind of, death ray from Phyrexians from, 100 years ago. Oh, whoops, what did I find here? Buried in the dirt, Now I have a death ray. What happens to my character? I don't know, I got a death ray. Maybe I'm a villain. Maybe I'm a hero. We'll find out. Will I use this death ray for good? Yeah, stuff like that happens all the time. And you can have stuff like that, character shifts where it's like that. Yeah. I think it's particularly hard because you actually have to make an effort towards it, or you have to be very, bullheaded on your character to not make it work on the character side of things, on the, how you play it side of stuff. A meme character can go too far. I'll never forget the meme dwarf that literally made the end of the campaign.
I've encountered meme characters before that have made me angry or stuff. I
think I've told you this story. The Underdark game ended because of that kind of character.
Yes.
That I was running.
I was in a game I was running. And someone wanted to play a character. And I said no, and they kept trying to convince me. So then finally, in anger, I said, fine, build it. And then my plan was to murder it in the first 5 minutes of the game. No, because there's a character coming in the middle of a campaign. Because what we were doing is, he wanted to be a Barriar from 3rd edition, which was a sheep centaur, and he wanted to be a paladin and be his own mount.
Oh, I hate that.
He argued that I could be my own mount, so I'm like, fine. And I literally, as the monsters are coming in, hi, these are spite monsters. And then the thing is, one of the other characters ran in the way of them and got murdered. And I'm like, I specifically told you these were spite monsters, not targeting you, but targeting the Barriar 5 feet from you. Why did you stand in front of him? You just met this man.
Yeah.
Well, that was a person that just made a lot of meme characters. And he made a mix. His meme characters were mixed bag, I will tell you. Some of them worked very well, others not. He made a lot of random dwarf women named Chipple. Named after a hentai he had seen.
Of course. Naturally.
The first version of it was for a joke one-shot, where he made the joke that Chipple was mistress of the Dance of the Seven Beards. Because the joke was that, I guess it's the thing of Tolkien that dwarf women are supposed to also have beards.
You can't tell the difference between dwarf women and men. Dwarf, sometimes, the Gimli quote from the movie.
Yeah, but the joke was that she had 7 different beards on her body, and you couldn't name where they all were. Whatever.
Sure,
yeah.
I guess. I mean, I thought jokes were meant to be funny, but
It was terrible. It's always been terrible. It was a thing that I will always remember, and I have to share with people because it's ingrained in my mind. I'm just like, it's a kind of ugh moment that everybody else can share with me. But anyway, he made a lot of incarnations of that character, and most of them tended to be just not as silly. They were just dwarven women named Chipple. But it was sort of like the same intrinsic joke that he had originally of like, haha, it's this bad hentai name, which I can't even remember which one it was. This is like this is early 2000s. This is 3rd edition. But so like you can make a character with a little joke that works. Just it's not a joke game. Don't overpower it. If the game doesn't have a silly tone, just don't fuck around with it that much. And again, mechanical side. Maybe ask a few questions about the game you're going to play. Just a few questions.
If you're doing a adventure path, it usually recommends classes, at least for Pathfinder.
Yeah. Look at those, and even if you're not going to go with the recommendations, use those as a template. Like, if one screams, like, a divine caster of some kind that has this kind of specialization, you can be like, well, I don't have to play cleric. But maybe a life oracle that also gets channel would be a great idea, you know? Or, like, maybe, like, an oracle and also take the channel feats, where you can also get a channel energy, right away. Plan for stuff like that, because it screams that this is a good ability. Or if you're not going to be a paladin, maybe make a fighter, but you also give yourself, like, well, undead are usually controlled by necromancers. I'll go the mage slaying route for my fighter, That'll kind of make up for not being, like, smiting evil. They give suggestions. You can work around those suggestions, but they're usually good. And you can go pretty far from those suggestions. Just use that as an idea.
An example of a character who was like mechanically and roleplay completely fine, Rio. Shadow Oracle, great combination, built like accidentally perfect. Just didn't fit a pirate campaign, class-wise. Because being stuck on a boat limits your stealth abilities. Which was fine. I was like, that's fine, I'll play something else. Yeah. And he'll stick around as like the ship doctor.
Yeah.
And if I want to bring him back out, I still can.
Yeah.
He's still leveled with the party.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's sort of like it and I don't mind having that where you have like this week Misty needs to do something and I want to play Rio for a bit or something. If you're not playing them both at the same time, I don't mind that, especially in a campaign like this.
Yeah, like in for the island stuff we're gonna be doing, I might bring Rio out for a couple sessions and have him do some stuff.
Yeah. It's, there are openings in the game which work well for characters. Even characters that don't work as well, you can sometimes fit them enough. Yeah. Because, like, again, you could have stuck with Rio. It would have been not as good, but fine, It would have been fine. Mechanically, like, he was a fine character. Oracle still works as a base class for this adventure. Yeah. It's just because he's so stealth focused. Stealth didn't really come up that often, so I found myself not doing anything in a lot of instances. And that's where it comes down to, like, you talk with your DM about it. Pay attention to when your character doesn't fit too. Yeah. Like, like I'll give an example of a character that I made sure still fit with the game. That okay, this was less meme, was more crazy. I made Tools.
Yeah, Tools.
Tools was just like a character I talked with a funny accent. And the only reason I talked with a funny accent, like a bad Russian accent, was a friend of mine long ago established that, for whatever reason, Sverfneblin had a Russian accent. That was the way that they did Sverfneblin. Yeah, they just... We had a Sverfneblin NPC. We were on like a ship-based game, and it was like he talked with kind of a Russian accent. And so it's like Sverfneblin. It's sort of like people do oftentimes dwarfs with Scottish accents, even though that's like, that's just what people do it with, That's
in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, because of Lord of the Rings. This was the thing. So I was like, I will be Sverfneblin with Russian accent. And I was like, I don't know my backstory. And so then I just kind of like inserted weird shit into my backstory. And I just played her like just kind of normal most of the time. I just like, when people would ask, I would reference something weird from my backstory. And it would just be a new thing every time. It was that kind of like the ever-changing, ever-growing backstory. It's like, oh yeah, I had a boyfriend once. Mother did not like him. Ate him. It's like, how would your mother eat him? Oh, I was adopted by Green Dragon. Ate my parents when I was very wee, and decided that I would be good pet. And then decided she loved me more than pet and became our adopted daughter. Turns out, powerful green dragon sometimes can find love in strangest of places. With tiny Sverfneblin woman.
True.
Even evil things can find love.
Yeah.
It doesn't always end up in the best places, but they can.
Because that's a good joke character.
Yeah.
That's like a funny. And another character like that very easily may not have fit, but in like a longer campaign, but he only stuck around for one session. The old man in the Star Wars game that showed up for one session on Tatooine. He really didn't mechanically fit the party.
Mm-hmm.
But his whole joke was, hey, I'm this badass smuggler dude, and I'm real cool, and he wasn't. He was a farmer. And he got shot and started freaking out. He also killed like 6 people and died.
There's a certain other character in maybe a cyberpunk game that every time that every time I hear them talk a little bit, I'm like, your character's lying about half this stuff, isn't he? Half of it's true, half it's not, and I can't tell what.
It's alright, just trust the ghost woman.
No, well, I wasn't talking about the ghost woman. I was talking about an old man who's part of the war.
Old man war criminal.
Old man war criminal who I'm pretty sure lies about a lot of stuff.
Probably.
But also, like, I can't tell because it's sort of like, I'm sure half of it's true. The other half, I can't tell where they separate. And especially, like, out of game, when I'm like there was mention of the actor feed, I'm like, fuck, that explains a lot of the way his character acts.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
He acts with the actor feed so well. I'm like, oh my god.
Really
and I'm
good.
sure my character, just from the words, I'm like, I just like hearing sometimes, I'm like, I know my character suspects something, just like looks at him, like, whatever, I don't know what you're doing, man.
Whatever, boomer.
Mm-hmm. Look, you're my boss and you know how to do paperwork fine. That's okay. Or you're my senior, not my boss,
Yeah, your boss doesn't like to talk to people because you all have gotten weirder and she just doesn't want to. She may still be mad that someone summoned something.
I can very well understand this. And I have butterflies.
You've got butterflies now. Congrats.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I should add to my backstory now that I was adopted, not from an orphanage. I was found mysteriously in the woods when Fae were scared away.
A generic friend of butterfly.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Feywild still exists, right?
Yeah, it still exists.
Well, I assume, like, after magic came back, some Fae could probably show up again.
Like, sprinkled out all throughout the world are, like, there are still, like, Fae gateways and stuff.
Well, what's what I'm saying is, some Fae may have kidnapped me, and then it was interrupted. But,
Fair.
I spent some time with Fae as a baby. And now it's finally coming back into circle.
Now you've got weird butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
It's alright. Your uncle will still accept you as your family.
Yeah.
You don't turn your back on family.
Mm-hmm. And you never know when you need to like have your car teleport 10 feet in front of itself suddenly.
Yeah. True.
Quick, use teleportation. It's only like 10 feet. It's fine. We'll go around this car. I don't know. Yeah. So watch your characters. Make sure they work. And talk to your DM if there's an issue going on.
Yeah.
It can happen.
If you find yourself, you're like, all these skill checks are coming up and you really can't do any of them, it's time to talk to your DM. You may have made a character that mechanically does not fit this happen.
Or combat happens and you can't do anything during it. That doesn't work too. Or just like sometimes if your character's acting a certain way and it just seems to not gel with the group, think about how your character might try to do stuff to work along with the group. If they want, like, everybody sometimes has to adapt themselves to work with a group. We do that in real life.
Yeah.
Think of what your character would do to try to get along better with these people. You know, they might go to me like, I'm kind of an asshole, I know that, but I'd like to be, you know, make sure we work together well. We are doing this, whatever is going on, you know. Say that to them, you know, or whatever's going wrong. I'm a little crazy, you know, I know that, and, you know, confess to them. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our games movie. We did talk about one where I had butterfly powers.
Yeah. Good old Cyberpunk game.
I finally chose a subclass.
This man did all of level 3 without a subclass.
Oh, what are you talking about?
Spent 3 sessions or so without a subclass.
I kept forgetting.
He picked the weird one.
Mm-hmm.
You did more exploring. You ran into some cops down in the maintenance tunnels. They were friendly enough.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you're all freaks. So, like, they just didn't want to talk to you.
We are a weird collection of people.
You're all strange people.
I mean, I'm pretty generic, normal, but I'm like, that makes me stand out more.
That just makes you the weirdest one.
Yeah, so it's like, why is he here? There's like
He's the most human.
Yeah, there's the Kasune with the mask, the snake lady, the weird old man with, like, I guess cybernetics. His picture shows cybernetics.
Weird boomer man.
Weird boomer man. And then just, like, a very average dude.
And it's a very average human man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then things happened. As everything was progressing normally and as I planned and expected, I mentioned that about when they got into a big tunnel, like, about 15 feet up, there was, like, this car. Because air vehicles exist. And then someone climbed into the car. And then I had to very quickly, like, go through the motions. Alright, you're in their car. They're going to fight you. This person is CR9. I have to somehow make this fight not kill you. I had to, on the fly, completely change it. Change an entire encounter. Because you weren't really meant to fight her. Yeah, so someone stole a car and then tried to drive it into a bunch of people. We hit one guy, killed him immediately, and felled the rest, blew the car up. Had a fight with the mage. I couldn't roll a concentration check to save my life, so none of my things worked.
Yeah, you kept losing spells on us.
Just kept losing all of my active spells.
That was very helpful for us.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you, she had something really stupid she could have done. You all have revolvers. She could have heat metaled your bullets.
That's true. That would have been a good one to mess up with things.
Unfortunately, yeah, she had to blow over spell points trying to pin down people.
Good for us.
So eventually she just like had like enough for one teleport, and then just shot the person you had captured. And then let herself be captured. Because she maybe thinks you can't break her.
I mean, I can't. I could try to convince her of stuff, but you know,
Yeah, you're not intimidating. You're like too generic.
I'm persuasive, and not very persuasive.
No. Yeah. You made me have to replan an entire encounter.
You're welcome.
I was not expecting someone to do that because I maybe should have considered it. But I'm like, no, because it's too high up. If someone has like a huge penalty to climbing, they're not going to do it.
They did it without telling anybody else too.
Yeah, they just did it without telling anyone.
I was like, really? You're not going to like inform us you're doing this? Okay.
Absolute chaos incarnate. That was the Cyberpunk game, which technically is a Sunday game. We had the Saturday thing.
Well, that's right. We did have a Saturday game. I have to remember to
I am running a 2-shot Fallout 2D20 game. I think it has mostly been going pretty well. From the one thing I ran. It feels pretty good as a system. I'll give it that.
Yes.
Y'all basically did some checks. You know, your whole mission is you gotta go to this dam to get some parts to fix your dam. And you're going through Yellowstone, and you found a lovely robot with a ranger hat.
Yeah, and we fixed him.
You fixed him, and then you made it so he doesn't give guided tours anymore.
Look, he doesn't need to give guided tours.
He was very loud.
It was very loud, and we don't need a guided tour. We just need him to, lead us from one area to another on a path, not to tour us.
Yeah, so you have a robot friend. You bunked down in a cabin. A weird spider monster attacked you. Weird spider person monster attacked you.
Yeah.
Now, you've played Resident Evil 1.
Yes.
Do you remember the weird, spider zombie thing in the basement?
The
Chimera or whatever.
The Chimera.
That's more or less what you're dealing with.
Yeah, that kind of definitely was the idea I had. I think it was
kind of really disgusting. This makes no sense. Why they never appeared again now that game.
Look, we've also found out that the Enclave basically stole a bunch of
hey,
stuff.
yeah, Enclave are here. And they stole Smith EV. You maybe have to go deal with them.
Especially because that's a local problem and we're local.
Yeah, you are local. Yeah, basically, it progressed. You killed the thing. That first one was mostly for me to test how much I can actually throw at you in a combat. So I was very unsure of how combat was going to go, and it went fine. So I think I can throw a little more. Because I didn't know if it was going to be, easy combat or if it was going to be, annoying combat like Star Trek.
That's always a good question, which one it's going to be.
You found a cave with a vault in it, and you entered in the vault. You also have a ghoul with you.
We do.
You met someone in the forest, and you were trespassing on this hunting grounds, and someone had the genius idea of, I can make amends with this guy. Would you like to milk my cow? Which, no, he didn't like that idea.
That was great and terrible at the same time.
Don't just ask a man in the woods if he'd like to milk something. That's not okay.
It's kind of weird.
It's a little weird, dude. What's great is the best part about having Cell as a player, because he'll suggest the weirdest thing, and then when I'm like, why would you do that? He just defends it. He just digs that hole deeper.
Well, this is a very nice deep hole you've dug. Very nice deep hole.
Yeah. And now you get to go into a horrible vault full of dead people.
I mean...
And bug monsters.
Yeah, we know where the bug monsters came from.
Yeah. You know, the vault had FEV. You know, some weird suited men took some FEV.
And, well, we don't know their Enclave in-game,
you don't know their Enclave, but,
it was suggested, and I'm,
when I describe, hey, it's... When I have an NPC describe, it's like what those Brotherhood people wear, but different. Your mind kind of goes to Enclave.
Instantaneously. Out of game, I'm like, it's goddamn Enclave. They're around in pockets still afterwards.
They still exist.
Yeah, they have their pockets of
They canonically, Well, they don't really exist in the West Coast. They still exist in Illinois and the Capital Wasteland.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is close enough to Illinois that they could be having some action in this area, gathering it for their own, evil purposes. I guess not evil, nefarious. Nefarious is the problem.
Well, they are pretty evil,
I
to be fair.
know, but, nefarious sounds better because,
They have that whole plot of, just genocide everything in the wasteland and resettle it.
That's kind of awful, but I mean,
it's never, it just keeps getting them killed, so I don't know why they keep doing it.
I mean, look, it's not defending their genocide, but, the wasteland's pretty awful.
The wasteland does suck, and to be fair, so do super mutants.
Yeah, so sort of like that, it's that weird thing of, I'm like, I would not go along with this idea, but I understand why you went to this extreme. You're the kind of people that,
are super mutants pretty fucking awful.
Yeah. Deathclaw's pretty awful. There's a lot of really horrible things, and I'm sorry, feral and ghouls and stuff, are pretty
ghouls
awful.
Are still they still have a pretty miserable and awful existence.
Yeah, sort of even those that aren't feral are not in a great place in their existence,
No, they're theoretically immortal. There's no coolest tide of nature.
Yeah, they're like dried up husk bodies that just have to keep themselves from going crazy, which is a constant threat that when they kind of lose their minds, and they just God.
In the actual one shot they recommend for the Fall of 2D20, that's actually part of the story, is dealing with two ghouls that just go feral.
Yeah. So I'm saying honestly, the good part of me wants to be well, we can make something out of this. But then there's that the realist part, which I understand when they're saying let's just wipe it out and rebuild it from scratch because there's not something that they're going that there's nothing to fix here. And I think that's why I'm it's nefarious, but I can't necessarily call it evil because the wasteland sucks so much.
Wasteland is pretty awful.
Yeah, if it was just a normal society, yeah, I give it then. But it's that weird point of they're doing something that most of us would say would be bad, but they're doing it to an area that's just terrible. Ah, God. Damn you, morality. Damn you in your gray areas of the world. See?
Yeah. That it went pretty well, I think, for a first session.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I enjoy my nerd.
Yeah, the philosophical talk between a mutant, a ghoul, and a nerd, and then some dude who just had to listen to it.
Uh-huh. But see, because my idea is, because, I feel if anybody would ask, I'm well, there are no specialists in science anymore. We have to learn a bit of everything because we can't specialize, So it's I've got a little medical expertise, a little bit.
His mega nerd, a ghoul who's been alive for 300 years, and a super mutant who's read one psychology book and has made it his whole personality.
It's really how it works. Look, I'll learn more stuff about them. I'll take some blood samples. I'll study it, I'm gonna science this bitch.
You gotta be careful with your phrasing with that ghoul. He's been alone for 300 years, dude.
Look, my character probably is not interested in anybody, honestly. He's interested in science.
Your is married to science.
I am probably married to science. I got that feeling when I was talking about that character. I'm I'm married to science. That's how this character works.
You also just look like an absolute freak. You got vault security armor and then a security coat, or a science coat over
a lab coat over top of it, yeah. I mean, I look like your average guy who walked out of a vault and stole some shit.
Yeah, you just look like average vault man.
Because every main character in a Fallout game just floats together just a bunch of weird clothing and calls it a day.
What was that game?
Star Wars?
We had Star Wars. Alright, you're still on Mustafar when you did that. Oh, yeah. Okay, I remember now. You finished up Mustafar. You got chased across Mustafar by some very people who are not happy with your presence.
Oh,
that's a cat.
It is a kitty. She came and said hi.
Good. Yeah. Basically, like, you spent the session escaping Mustafar, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of... You kind of... Or I assume your characters are getting the idea that, hey, you know, things are kind of bad.
Yes.
When a planet's being absolutely shelled from orbit.
Well, it's also like, I think we expected there to be large-scale battles because we heard there was like an actual, like, enough forces to cause a civil war.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but we didn't expect for them to have a expedition this far from their region of control.
Yeah. So, like, as a backer, what I'm doing is, in Legends, there is an Imperial Civil War that takes place around this time. I'm basically just using that as my thing. Kind of just stolen that and altered it a little bit, because an Imperial Civil War does actually happen in Legends. It doesn't happen in canon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, basically, like, you went to Mustafar. It is being invaded by your cult friends, who are more than a cult at this point, because they have a goddamn Super Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're kind of getting the idea that, like, hey, things are kind of bad in the galaxy right now. And then she, like, showed up and fought you. And I love this about Zipfel, that he's so sassy, that he's just like, we keep beating you. You've never beaten her.
No, I don't think we've actually physically beaten her.
No, every time you fought, it's been interrupted by something.
Yeah.
Or you run away.
Uh-huh. But look, I'm gonna keep sassing her. Look, I just have had enough of her shit. Look, that's what it is. I've just had enough of her shit. She's like...
Yeah, well, if you keep sassing her, maybe she'll take Cell's other arm. You think about that?
It's fine. We can get a cybernetic one there, too. We can just have double cybernetic arms. Yeah, he took Cell's arm. She took Cell's arm.
Yeah, she cut off Cell's arm. It was basically like, I went to Cell, because he had to miss the session because he's moving, and was like, hey, you might be in the position where you could lose an arm and get a cybernetic, and was like, hey, if you get reduced to 0 HP, I'm not going to down you. I'll just cut your arm off if you're okay with that. And he said that was fine. So Cell went to 0 HP and got his arm cut off, but actually he only went to 1 HP.
Mm-hmm. He sacrificed an arm for that.
Sacrificed an arm for you to all to escape.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Gungan has force powers.
Yes, the Gungan has force powers now.
Yeah, he also robbed Darth Vader, like, of a lot of shit.
We did.
We stole just a bunch of shit from Vader.
Don't mind us. We're just getting away with a bunch of loot.
You could have stolen more. I had things written for all of those items. Granted, all of the dark side ones were horribly cursed. If you would have put them on.
Yeah.
But Cell was not a greedy boy and only took the neutral ones.
You know, and I just grabbed something that... I just grabbed stuff...
You grabbed, like, some books or something.
Well, that's why, like, when it came to the feats, it's less, like, actual quotation helpful, but I was like, I'll take the Lore Master feat then, I finally decided, because I'm like, it makes sense.
Yeah, so... I think you're heading in up now.
Yeah, I think we could drop man off.
Because you gotta drop man off, and Cell needs a new arm.
Yeah. And maybe our Gungan can reconnect with his long-lost family.
Because I know there's gonna be some stuff with Gungans on the boot. Some of it may interest Yak, or he may not care. I don't care.
We'll have to find out. That's a
but
maybe.
You're gonna have like a week of downtime on the boot. The surgery takes a while.
Yeah.
And recovery is a thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was Star Wars.
Good times. Well, I didn't have either of my games this week. Buccaneers is off because it's off for at least 2, maybe 3 weeks.
All but one person would have been able to Wrath.
Yeah, one person could have done Wrath at that time. That was kind of like the wow.
It's been not a great week. Although it is Fish's birthday. It was yesterday, I think.
Yeah. So it's nice. Happy birthday, Fish. You know.
Happy birthday, Fish.
So, at very least, we've, we took the week off. It was fun.
Yeah, the only D&D I had was stuff I run.
Yeah, I didn't get to run anything. I was like, it was fine. I did less work than I wanted to on anything, but I did a little bit of work here and there, and I have to like get people to meet him or something at some point, and I don't know. We'll see. I'll work on it. It's a nice weekend. I can dedicate some time to it, probably. But anyway, no, that was our week of tabletop. It was fine. I did play some Flux one of the evenings. I did Next Generation Flux, which is just it's like it's so weird because I know it's an actual Flux, but it feels kind of like a fan-made version of Flux because it's so like niche. It's not just Star Trek Flux; it's Next Generation Flux. And I didn't understand how some of the things worked, so I Joe won one of those, and I was like, man, whatever, just my mistakes, not reading a card correctly.
Unfortunate.
But anyway, so I think that's enough for this week. That's a good point to end it off there. We had a little bit of a quieter week overall, a couple sessions, but not as many as normal, and then we had a lot of topics this week though, a lot of interesting ones. So thank you for joining me as usual, Momo.
Yeah.
You got anything you want to add in today or something?
No, not really.
Okay. Big schedule. I'll do more Wrath of Righteous, certainly. Now that I'm beyond the big battle of the first part of the beginning, where our resistance base was attacked, and we managed to beat back the enemy. Now I can go exploring again and check out a couple more places to do some quest lines or some shit like that. That sounds like fun. I'll do more Raft. I might hold off until the end of the week because I'm technically at the end of that, and I might want to do a little bit of just off-stream random shit to finish up a couple of achievements and maybe build a little bit more of my mega Raft before the end of it. Because I don't know if I'm going to come back to my single player after I'm done the game. That's my excuse is I can do it off stream a little bit on my own, if I'm preparing for it. But once I get that the end of the game, which I think is the last area, is what I'm going to next. I don't know if I continue if they give me the option. I don't know. It could be a little bit like Stellaris, where it's just the end of the game too.
Yeah.
Not Stellaris. Subnautica.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to think of.
It's weird.
And then I might add something else in the meantime. I'll figure it out. I've got a couple of game options that I was thinking of. So that's morning stuff. Buccaneers is off again this next week. I was saying 2 or 3 weeks. This is the second week. I'm going to see what I can get done in the next week to set up to see if I want to do one more week or not. Also, I haven't talked to Lightning yet, which I need to figure that out. And I gotta just poke a few other people about, maybe doing joining in the game if they want to. I got a few people I can poke that were busy back at the beginning of season 3, but maybe now season 4 might be open. Having Nat come back for a couple of sessions when they're on an island with these nice Cyclops ruins that are her character or something, that were a big thing about her that she wanted to check out. Just saying. Anyway, we'll talk about that. And Shadowrun should be on schedule, hopefully.
We can only hope.
Now we can see. Again, I think I can probably finish up Urborg at one session, honestly, and then move on to the...
Probably. There's not much left to do.
No. As soon as Urborg is done, I'm going to have something happen which will lead into the end of the game, which you will be in observance towards, which will then lead you to the option of maybe doing some side stuff before the finale, setting up for it. Kind of oh, hey, let's go learn about what's going on here, or our in quotations enemy's end game has begun. What do we have to do to stop it, kind of thing. That sort of stuff. We'll see about that. And then, yes, I think that's it that I have on my schedule. So, and Discussing Table next Saturday. Should be on schedule for it. So, thank you everybody for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you, Momo, again for joining me as usual. Thank you everybody who hung out and chat here. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their weekend and the rest of their week, and hopefully just as always, a good time. So, until those future times when we meet again and do more random tabletop talking over nerdy stuff, farewell, folks. Goodbye and farewell.
Bye.